Hi guys, welcome to Para Women Radio. I'm Amy.
Para Women Radio. No silly girl talk about makeup or clothes. No, these dark darlings talk about the bizarre, the strange, and the supernatural with other extraordinary women in the paranormal. Join our chat moderated by Shannon Overland. And now, here they are, Amy Williamson and Beverly Van Pelt, the Gothic Gourmet.
Good evening, everyone. Greetings, and welcome to Para Women Scream Radio. It is Thursday, March 11th, 2010. I'm Amy. Beverly Van Pelt is still on hiatus, so I will be here bringing all the goodness to you live. And Shannon Overland, she's in the chat room. She's going to be hosting it, and a little bit later she'll be with us giving us the Para World News. I want to remind everyone that Para Women Scream Radio, we spotlight and focus on all women in the horror and paranormal. Paranormal just meaning women who aren't doing that of the norm. Tonight's guest is just a dynamic and exciting guest, and I'm pretty over the moon excited about having her on. Her name is Sarah McLean, and she's worked with some really exciting people. She has worked with Deepak Chopra, Byron Katie, and a few other high-profile authors. And tonight she's going to be joining us talking about meditation. And I've been an avid meditation person since I was 16 years old. I joined a meditation group actually at that age, and I was the youngest person in the group, but I so loved meditation. And I love group meditations, and I love guided meditations. And Sarah's going to come on, and she's going to talk about some meditation. We have some sound clips of some of her meditations. And she's also going to join and talk about the Aryurvedic lifestyle. And if you don't know what that is, she's going to explain to us. It's a healthy way of living, and it originated, I believe, from India. And so she's going to be joining us in about 5 minutes to share a little bit more about meditation and the Ayurvedic lifestyle. I wanted to let you know that our beloved Beverly Van Pelt, she's having a spring sale on her website at sunnysideofthegraveyard.com. She has umbrellas that are on sale for 25% off. She has her black parasol, which is a feminine white dot. She has a black umbrella with flames. And she has the Gothic Gourmet's favorite coffins on gray umbrella. When you visit her site, you're going to see Bev with the coffin umbrella. It was taken for a photo shoot with the Cult Goddess magazine. And so the publicity photo is courtesy of Jason LaCour, and Bev is going to also on her website kind of share with you some upcoming things. She has some stories that she's going to be posting, and she has wants you to let you know that she's also on Facebook, and Beverly Van Pelt, the Gothic Gourmet. She has a newsletter that's going to be coming at you, and she has some new products that she has lined up. So she has some really, really exciting things going on over at her website, or not her website, but yeah, it's her website. It's called sunnysideofthegraveyard.com. It's a delightful site. I've been there, and I've ordered things off of there, and I can tell you that the things that I received were unique, and they were boxed in a unique way and packaged with loving Gothic goodness, and so I invite you and I encourage you all to head on over there. I also wanted to let you know that I am going to be taking part in the Psychic Justice Tour with Robbie Thomas. It's a North America tour that is kicking off, well, actually kicked off last week. And Psychic Robbie Thomas is going to be traveling all over the United States and throughout Canada. And he's going to be sharing with you high-profile cases in which you're going to be able to hear and see the inside workings of the criminal psychic profiler. And so basically he's going to be standing on stage solving live cold cases with the families and the police that have been working on the case. And he's going to, in each stop, have a special guest speaker. For example, when he stops over in Louisville, he's going to have Keith Age. When he's in California, he's going to have the rock and roll psychic with him. When he's in Boston, he's going to have the beloved Shannon Sylvia. And when he's in Michigan, he's going to have Amy Williamson. I'm really excited about it. We're working on a really high-profile case for Michigan, and it should really grab your attention. And I really hope that you will join us. If you're interested in purchasing tickets, just go to www.labyrinth.com. Let me spell that out for you. It's LABYRINTH.ticketleap.com. Oh, goodness. Events. Coming at you with the Parawoman Scream Radio and the League of Extraordinary Paranormal Women. I do see that our first guest is on the line, and I'm going to go ahead and read her profile. Before I start, I want to let you know that I had so much I wanted to read and say about Sarah that it really took a lot for me to edit her profile so that it got down to a manageable time frame. There is so much that I want to talk about with Sarah that I actually and literally prayed to my guides and asked that the right questions come out during this interview so that the audience gets exactly what they need from this interview. And a funny thing happened today. As I was out walking about and doing my daily activities, I kept seeing feathers. And I thought, for me, when my guides speak to me in everyday symbols, and for me, when I see feathers, I know that the angels are with me. And I kept thinking, why are my angels with me today? And then a little aha, ding, ding, ding moment happened just before the show started. I'm speaking to Sarah about meditation. So the angels are with us, and they're guiding us, and they're going to help us through this interview. And so I know that the right things are going to come out, and our audience is going to receive exactly what they're supposed to receive from this interview. So let's go ahead and read Sarah McLean's profile. Sedona meditation instructor and founder Sarah McLean has been featured in the New York Times and the Phoenix Women's Magazine, calls her an inspirational and dynamic teacher. Sarah McLean has been teaching meditation and mind-body health programs since the early 90s. She served as the education director at the Chopra Center for Wellbeing in San Diego and is now the director of the Sedona Meditation Training Company. Her interest in mind-body health began with her training as a medic and behavioral specialist in the U.S. Army in the 1980s, where she learned to treat post-traumatic stress disorder within the military. In 1989, she began her personal daily meditation practice and her work with mind-body health pioneer Dr. Deepak Chopra. For over 8 years, she was employed by him, first as an educator at the Aryurvedic Health Center in Lancaster, Massachusetts. And later, when they relocated to Southern California, she was one of the founding directors of the Chopra Center for Wellbeing. Dr. Chopra certified Sarah, one of his first educators, to teach mind-body health programs, among them primordial sound meditation, an ancient form of meditation, perfect health, and the Ayurvedic lifestyle course. Ayurvedic is an ancient mind-body healing approach which suggests that health and healing begins with awareness of consciousness, and the meditation is the first step towards creating balance in the mind and body. Ayurvedic includes healing modalities that include daily and seasonal routines, diet, exercise, identifying mind-body types, dashas, and imbalances, purification therapy, sound therapy, aromatherapy, and more. Sarah has served as the personal assistant to Gary Zukav, author of Seed of the Soul, and in 2000 was hired by Byron Katie to direct the School of the Work. Sarah traveled worldwide with Katie as she shared a self-inquiry process. In 2001, Sarah moved to Sedona, Arizona, where she founded the Sedona Meditation Training Company, an organization providing training and immersion in various meditation practices to enhance mind, body, health, and self-awareness. Recognized in 2008 by National Association of Women Business Owners as a trailblazer, Sarah's organization offers meditation programs that demystify meditation, making it accessible to anyone. So let's go ahead and bring Sarah on.
Can you hear me?
Hello, Sarah. Welcome to Parawoman Radio. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm fine. I have to tell you, Sarah.
Yes.
I'm a bit excited and a bit nervous at the same time.
Well, maybe it's not nerves. Maybe it's just really just energy coursing through your body.
Oh, definitely. My face is red, and I'm serious. I haven't been this excited about having a guest on since we had Lorraine Warren, which she was a trailblazer in the paranormal field, and I sort of feel as if you are a trailblazer in the meditation field.
I love hearing that.
For so long.
Well, you know, I loved hearing your story about how you got involved in a meditation group at the age of 16. I mean, really, that's really unusual. That's really unusual. I don't know how old you are, but when I was 16, I was looking for something like that, but it was just not in sight. So instead, you know, I kind of went into other forms of settling down the nervous system, you know, drinking, drugs, smoking cigarettes, you know, falling in love. And, you know, I was just writing my introduction to my my new meditation book. I've written most of it, but I hadn't written the introduction, and it started out with really being in this search for finding out what's out there beyond, or what's in here beyond what seems to have value in this culture, you know, and so I really was really involved in that story, and so I was thrilled to hear that you, as a young woman, went and really found what you were searching for, and that's great. It took me a lot longer. So maybe you're the pioneer.
Well, no. Well, I don't know. I like to think that I'm original and I'm my own person. But I feel like I really am right now. As when I was 16, I really felt fulfilled because, as I said, I really like group meditation. And right now I'm living in a city where group meditation really isn't anything that I can find. So, I grew up in the Metro Detroit area, and now I'm in kind of like a rural area. And so I'm really craving that group meditation process. And
right.
So and an interesting thing about how I found you, I was actually looking for another author, and it brought me to your website. And I was reading through your stuff, and I thought, this is very interesting. And so I contacted you. And I don't believe there are any accidents. So I know, this is what I'm craving in my life right now. And so I found you, and now I'm able to bring you to my audience. And I'm just thrilled.
Well, thank you. I love being here. I was curious, why would your audience want to know about meditation? But, it is outside of the norm, definitely extraordinary. It definitely requires a seeking out of it. I mean, it doesn't just show up on, you're not watching TV and have that say, wow, this is sponsored by Sedona Meditation. You're more likely to hear this is sponsored by Allegra or Viagra or something like that. So it does require that sort of seeking spirit.
We do have a very eclectic audience, and so we bring them all different walks of life of people, and exactly, meditation, just like in our busy society, where so many things are being thrown at us these days, I mean, like sensory overload, and where all these people are having migraines and stress, and they can't sleep, and so meditation is so important. Being able to quiet the mind is so important. And Oh,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was
Lately,
going to suggest that.
Suffering from migraines. So yes, I need meditation, and I believe that our audience needs it. So.
Well, there is a woman who came to me because she was suffering from migraines. She happened to be writing. I live in Arizona. I know it's a little cliche to be a meditation teacher living in Sedona, Arizona, but honestly, that was not my plan. It really wasn't. I had no plans on living here, but man, I happened to fall in love with, and Mary actually lived here, so here I am. And this one woman, she writes for the Arizona Republic, and she has been on the search for treating her migraines for years. So it led her to here after, all the medications didn't work and deep breathing didn't work and relaxation didn't work, and she loved her job. She's a great writer. And she said it's like the cure, for her migraine. She writes about it. She blogs about it. She's one of my biggest fans because I was able to show her how to easily meditate. And so I'm excited for you. You had the opportunity to download a couple of the meditations today, right? And
I did, and they are beautiful meditations. You have such a soothing and beautiful voice, and that's important when you're recording meditations, because if the voice isn't correct, I've found when I listen to guided meditation, it distracts me.
I agree, and we really want to have the inward journey. You had mentioned, how do we stop thinking, or how do we quiet the mind? And the truth is, we can't quiet the mind by thinking about it or trying to do it, because obviously thinking and trying requires mental activity. So how do we actually do it? I mean, it's possible. Meditation's been around for 5,000 years easily. So how do we quiet the mind, and how do we get to that silent space between the thoughts, the place where the thinker exists, the real you? And the way I've found to do it, I started meditation by pretending I was meditating. I didn't know what I was doing, and that doesn't work. And then I went when I was in college, I went and, actually I was in the Army. I was before college, and I was studying or training to be a medic who was treating soldiers for post-traumatic stress disorder. And one of the things we learned about is relaxation, and we were lying on the ground and systematically relaxing the body, and I found that to be really exciting and never had been exposed to it. And obviously it's commonplace now, but way back in the early 80s it wasn't. And then I went to college and learned about chakra meditations, but I'm not a big visualizer. I don't really know how to do that, even though she taught me about it. And eventually it all came down to, well, why don't you just visualize some fruit? Visualize red apples, visualize oranges, visualize lemons and limes. And
isn't that the most pure color? I find when I have a hard time, when I am doing my chakra meditation and I'm getting the murky colors, I actually do bring in the fruits, because that's such a pure, vibrant color.
Yes, and it is. But even for me, that just got my mind sort of agitated, trying to remember what was next, trying to focus on that. And so what I ended up doing was giving it up after a while. And I ended up going, I had a boyfriend who was into Zen Buddhism, and I ended up going to a monastery with him. And that was the first time I was actually able to sit for a period of time. And in Buddhism they have, or Zen Buddhism, this is a Japanese form, very formal approach. There are a couple of different ways to do it. Number one is just sitting, shikantaza, which is focusing on the breath, and counting, like counting in 1, out 2, in 3, out 4. And I would do that, and that definitely worked, because my mind, everybody's mind, is really, thoughts exist in linguistic structures. I mean, we hear our thoughts. Some people see their thoughts, but most people hear their thoughts. What am I going to do later today? Am I going to be on time? I'm running late. Who's going to meet me? What's for dinner? That kind of thing. So we all hear our thoughts, but when we interrupt our thoughts with some other thought that sort of doesn't lead to anything, like a number. I mean, you can't think all day about the number 1 or 2, although some people do. I have friends who are numerologists who go crazy over you just say the number 3 and they're off into a half an hour discussion. But
Sarah, this is like a little side jaunt, but isn't the meditation, the Om, isn't that a form of the letter 3? Or I think I heard that somewhere.
Well, it looks like the letter 3, the Sanskrit, when you write it down, the Sanskrit symbol looks like the letter 3, sure. But let's talk about the word Om, just because you mentioned it. Everybody's heard it. People have assigned some meaning to it, the meaning of the sound of the universe as it expands, the sound of creation and its creativity. And, I love those descriptions of that word. But it's also considered a primordial sound, and I know you had written that on your description of what we were going to talk about tonight, so let's do that. Om is one of the primordial sounds. Now, primordial sounds are sounds of nature. For instance, birds singing in the trees, the wind blowing through the bristlecone pines, or rain falling on the ground in puddles, or the waves of the ocean, even the sound of lightning, which we call thunder, even the sound of streams. All of these are sounds of nature. These have been here, for millions and millions of years. Yeah. And what meditation, we've heard a lot about rishis in India and these men sitting in the mountains. I'm sure there are women too, but we don't hear much about them. But there are, people sitting in the mountains, and it was way before the advent of electricity being captured and fossil fuel being mined and that kind of thing. And they would sit in this silence, and they weren't sitting to reduce stress. A lot of times they were sitting to understand the nature of creation, those lifelong questions of why am I here, what is my purpose, what is this life, and what is death, and why does the sun come up, and those questions. Yeah. And instead of Googling those questions, they would literally go inside to get the answers instead of what we are trained to do, which is go outside to get the answers.
Yeah.
It's
all inside, isn't it?
Well, a lot of it is inside. It's not our thoughts, though. So yes, you can access one of the qualities of your soul or your spirit or who you really are or your essence is that of pure knowledge, of accessing everything, accessing every bit of information, things you haven't studied. So yes, it's all inside. If you can make your way and forge those pathways or bridges to that knowledge, definitely. But let's go back to that primordial sound, just to finish that subject for a moment. These rishis would be meditating and really tuned into the different vibrations that were present. And, as you meditate, and as you probably know, as you meditate, your senses get more refined and more subtle, and you can hear and feel and see things that are beyond what you normally hear, feel, and see, and even smell and taste. And so they would hear these sounds, and as they'd hear them change, and they would then start to chant them, because thousands of years ago, 10,000 years ago, language was around, but writing wasn't really around, not traditional writing. So they wouldn't write these things down to pass it on to their students or disciples. They would chant these things. So sounds that were powerful had to be linguistically structured and represented in language. So the word Om was captured sort of by linguistics, and so that sound of the universe expanding isn't really Om, but that is the linguistic representation of that sound. And we use these primordial sounds in meditation, not necessarily Om, but others, and because they're so basic, they interrupt the constant flow of thought, where the meaning of one sound, if I just say to you, high school, you'd all of a sudden, we don't want to do this right now, but you would go back to high school and think about who your friends were, who your teachers were, where you were. We don't want to do that, but you see how just one word, or two words in that case, can take you back and start triggering senses, lots and lots of thoughts. So when we use in meditation, when we use a word that has no meaning, even a number in the case of Zen, it interrupts the constant flow of thought, so we can go to subtler and subtler levels of thought, eventually transcending it, so we bump into the thinker of the thought, the real you.
That's beautiful. That's amazing. So on your website, you have some meditations, and one of them is So Hum. Could you, because I have that loaded up that we're going to share with our audience,
Great.
Could you kind of set that up and explain to us what So Hum, the meaning behind that?
Okay.
Primordial.
Yeah, that's a primordial sound. So, hum. I mean, we have attributed some meanings to both of those things. So seems to be in our language, and hum, it's humming a song or something. But prior to English language and that, the word so was a word that represented the inhale breath. If you inhale right now with your eyes closed, you might be able to hear the word so. You might. And maybe it's a different word for you. But if you were to assign a word, this is what the rishis would say. So. And on the exhale, and rishi, by the way, means seer. Seers, they're just the sages. On the exhale, if you let your breath go across the back of your throat on the exhale, you might be able to hear the word hum. So this meditation, you'll pay attention to the sound of your breath, the sensation of your breath, and the actual linguistically structured mantra that goes along with it.
Beautiful.
And yes, you're welcome. You go ahead and play it.
Okay. I want to let our listeners know that this is a shaved-down version. There's much longer on Sarah's site. It's going to run about 4 minutes because I had a hard time shaving it because it was so beautiful. So I did create where they're going to go into the space, and I felt like you can't really take somebody into a space without having them bring them back. So I added the ending of the meditation so that people can come back into their body and kind of get comfortable and resume listening to the interview. So this is Sarah's meditation, her mantra of So Hum.
The meditation that follows uses the mantra So Hum, which is translated as I am that in many ancient traditions. Place the palms on your lap, facing upwards, and gently close your eyes. Scanning your body, relax any tension that you might be aware of. Relaxing your shoulders and relaxing your jaw. Draw your chin in slightly and let the back of your neck lengthen. Relaxing your abdomen. Breathe easily through your nose. Now bring your attention to the rhythm of your breath, feeling the rise and the fall of your chest as you inhale and exhale. Observe the inflow and outflow of your breath without attempting to control it in any way. You might find that your breathing spontaneously gets faster or slower, deeper or shallower, and may even pause for a time. Observe the changes without resistance or anticipation. On your next inhale, say the sound so silently to yourself. And as you exhale, say hum. Keep your focus on the sensation of your breathing while silently repeating the syllables so, hum. On your inhalation, gently draw your breath along the back of your throat and listen for the sound of so. And as you exhale, listen for the sound of hum as your breath is amplified in your throat. Allowing your mind to become absorbed in the sound of so, hum. So on the inhale, hum on the exhale. Now, keeping your eyes closed, stop saying the mantra and sit easily. Gently begin to stretch your body. When you're ready, slowly open your eyes. You can do Soham meditation twice a day, ideally on an empty stomach. Remember to sit easily at the end of meditation before resuming activity.
Okay, so that was Sarah's Soham meditation mantra. Sarah, I have a question. It was a mantra, and we've spoken about Om, and we've spoken about Soham. How do you know which mantra suits you best?
Well, I think you have to practice and try them a few times, maybe even give yourself a week with one or two. But honestly, when you sit down to meditate, choosing one mantra and sticking with it throughout the entire meditation is going to help the mind settle down rather than halfway through the meditation go, well, I really should be doing my chakra meditation. No, now I'm going to start praying. Now I'm going to start tuning into my astral body. You know, you really want to, when you sit down to meditate, decide what you're going to do ahead of time and then stick with it, because the mind is very creative and wants to switch it around and make it more interesting. And so, you know, bear in mind the word mantra comes from two Sanskrit syllables. The word man, M-A-N, or manas, is the word for mind. And the word tra means instrument or protection. So the word mantra really is an instrument for the mind, and it's literally, we're not meditating to get really good at meditating. We're literally using a mantra as a way to anchor our awareness, to train our awareness or train the brain to settle down, to move inward. Because if you look at the way the body's designed, your senses are really, they're all about going outward. You know, what does that smell like? What does that look like? What does that taste like? What does that feel like? You know, that kind of thing. So when we're meditating, we're really turning our attention inward. It's a real practice. That's why they call it a meditation practice. And using a mantra is like you taking a boat to this realm of your presence or your essence. You know, many people have read that book by Eckhart Tolle, which is called Awakening to Your Life's Purpose, A New Earth. Mm-hmm. And he, you know, basically your life's purpose, according to him, because I wanted to know what he thought my life's purpose was. But he says that your life's purpose is to become aware of your awareness. So what is that? And so if you, as all your listeners, and if you turn your attention right now to the one who is present, listening to me, the one who is being breathed, the one who is having the thoughts, the one that we call you, mm-hmm. You'll notice this presence there that is really unshakable. It's unshakable. It doesn't depend on your age or your sex or your weight or where you're sitting or where you are right now or who likes you or who doesn't or what your hair looks like or the color of your hair or anything. Mm-hmm. You know, there's this presence here that is the real you. It's the presence that we start to connect with using the instrument of a mantra through meditation. And the point of meditation, I look at it a lot like brushing my teeth. You know, I don't look for a real fabulous experience in meditation. Like I do it to have a great life. I'm not doing it to although there are meditations that have you meet your spirit guides and animal totems and get in touch with your past lives. I mean, I've done them. But the daily practice of meditation, for me, is about reducing stress in my nervous system so I can really realize, it's like self-realization with the big S, self, soul realization.
What do you think are, because you've been doing it for so long and you've been teaching, so you've probably gotten a lot of feedback. What do you think are the benefits, the overall benefits of daily meditation?
Well, there are definitely 3 or 4 categories. There are the physical benefits. You get rid of stress. Well, what does that mean? Well, you might not have a problem going to the bathroom when you're older. Maybe you can digest your food better. Maybe you won't have aches and pains in your joints. Maybe your circulation is normalized. Those are just the basics. Our blood sugar is normalized. Our stress hormones are reduced. Your youth hormones are increased. Your blood pressure is reduced. There's a lot less stress on the organs of the body. I don't think that's the main reason that your audience would meditate, but that is the main reason that meditation should be basically, there should be a meditation counter next to every pharmaceutical counter, but basically, there are physical attributes. There are mental benefits. People are much clearer thinking. They can identify what's important. They make better decisions. They don't talk them out of things that they know are good for them. They basically have a higher IQ. That's another thing. They're much, much clearer and reduces depression. It reduces anxiety and obsessive-compulsive disorder and those kinds of things. Now, in terms of, so that's the mental benefits, psychological benefits, physical benefits, and my experience, though, is way beyond that. I learned it and taught it initially for that. People would come to the Chopra Center, with the wake-up call. Their husband's leaving them, or they've gotten that diagnosis of 4th stage of cancer, or they're so depressed, or they can't sleep or digest anything, or they've got chronic fatigue, or God knows what. So people would come for that, and that was the original reason that I got involved in meditation, was because it was the primary approach to restoring wholeness in the body and in the mind. And so I really got involved with that. But as I practiced and taught it over the last 20 years, practicing it 20 years, teaching it probably for 17 years, I noticed that the benefits are so much more than just a longer life or a higher quality of life, physically. The benefits for me are a sense of centeredness in the midst of all activity, a greater connection, and this sounds so trite when I'm saying it, but the realization of it is so phenomenal for me. The realization that the universe is really on my side, that everything's happening for my benefit, even if it doesn't seem that way logically. I feel a much closer affinity to the Creator, whatever you want to name her or him. I also feel a sense of, like you said, knowingness. I know more. I access knowledge, not because of my individualized nervous system or my ego or my intellect, but because it's there. Everything is available to us, and it's a matter of tapping into that. And I know this starts sounding strange, but honestly, this is true. And the other thing is my intuition is so clear. Mm-hmm. And where in the past I used to not pay attention to my body, because that was a scary place. I ended up with cancer. It's kind of a long story, and embarrassing too. But I now know that the body does not lie at all,
no.
and I get so clear about that.
No. And I truly believe what our diseases are in our body is a direct reflection of our thoughts, our thought patterns. So I am well aware that cancer is like anger turned inwards, where your body is just taking so much, it's rebounding and reflecting so much that it just says no more.
Well, I want to just to clarify that, because I went through it. Answering the phone for Deepak was what I first did when it was 1989, 1990, and I'd pick up the phone and people would tell me, they have chronic fatigue and they'd had Lyme's disease, and I was able to deal with that really easily. Arthritis, I had no problem dealing with that. But the minute the word cancer came along, I was really a little less direct with those people. Like what lifestyle. I'm not saying that anyone causes their own cancer, because I don't think so. but I know that there are lots of lessons to be learned from it, and I do think that cancer can be exacerbated by stress. I also think that, life in Ayurveda, which is what Deepak Chopra first kind of got famous for, and what I was interested in, this mind-body approach to health. Ayurveda says that perfect health is through perfect digestion, and turning food as well as every other experience that we take into ojas, or into nectar. And so when we don't fully experience our emotions, or an experience of something that's happening in our environment, when we ignore our body, when we ignore our feelings, when we hear a yes but we say no, or when we hear a no but we say yes because we want to people please or are codependent, these are the signals that start to confuse the body and start to create a lack of wholeness in the body. It starts to be a disintegration. You talk about dis-ease. I actually think a lot of it is disintegrating. So wholeness is about integration. It's about correlation. It's about creativity. It's about all possibilities. But when we say everything's fine, but I'm not going to pay attention to that, I'm going to ignore the way I feel about that person, or that not even telling yourself how you feel. I'm not saying we go around screaming, but not even admitting to yourself. I think that what happens is we have sort of these undigested things that happen to us. And in my
That's
case,
what I would say, your body, your body digests things, and when digesting emotions. So, in a sense, what you're saying is your body doesn't quite know how to digest those emotions, correct?
Right. It doesn't digest it. It's indigestible. So I wouldn't say that it's because you're mad, but I do think it's because the body is not necessarily angry, but rebelling in some way. Maybe that would be a way to put it.
Doesn't quite know how to process that anger.
Right.
You're unwilling to process it. So in your case, what do you feel your cancer stemmed from? You were going to say in my case.
Oh, okay. I was working at the Chopra Center, feeling fine and I was talking on the phone all the time and dealing with people and who were asking the questions, because Deepak was getting progressively more famous. When I first got there, no one knew who he was, but eventually, the phone never stopped ringing. And so people wanted him to be their personal physician and tell them how to get it through this in a mind-body approach. Well, I was lucky enough to be able to walk into his office and talk about my cancer, which I shouldn't even call it my cancer, the cancer. And what I ended up finding was, I grew up and this is a whole other story, but I grew up in a pretty scary household. It was emotionally very frightening. My mother was an alcoholic. My father was a crazy person. And it was always a very scary place to be, literally. And to be, in my body, or to be as a human being and say things. And so I found myself crying a lot of the time, but then eventually I held that down. So I stopped saying what I felt. I started trying to protect myself by, sort of manipulating my environment by what I said. And I basically, if I felt anything, I would just hold it down. And the squeezing around my throat was intense. It would ache. I grew up with a lot of strep throats. I grew up with a lot of, really serious coughs. And I ended up creating this sort of block, literally a block in my energy channels, in my throat chakra. And throat chakra is all about manifestation, integrity, expressing authenticity, creativity. And so I ended up with this cancer there. And it was really because I didn't fully express who I was, because, I was taught it was kind of scary to do that, and then I never really figured out how to do it after. Got to say, my journey was, because I was able to listen to my intuition. I lived in a monastery for a couple of years, and I had a sense I was going to be moving on, and I got a call the summer before I kind of left there in September, and it was a man named Gary Zukav, who was a Zen Buddhist who lived up in Mount Shasta. He wrote the book, The Seed of the Soul.
Yeah, you're so funny. And it was a man, Gary Zukav. And everyone's like, wow.
Yeah, and he called me and said, hey, I hear you taking a break from working for Deepak, and you're in a monastery. Would you like to help me? Because I've been on Oprah every week now for the past couple months, and I need some help, translating my work to the general public, and would you be the one to help me. And I said, sure. See, I had that sense I was leaving. Well, the good news is the way we worked together was we'd sit in these council circles. It's kind of the way of the Native Americans, the way of the council, sit in circles and wait to be moved to speak. So I literally had to figure out when I was speaking because I was trying to please someone, or if I were speaking because I was moved to express my deep innermost self. So I got to be fluent with my authenticity. And honestly, he just sent me an email. He just has written this book on spiritual partnership, which is all about that, because he didn't really cover this too much in his Seed of the Soul book, but it is really a powerful way to feel safe and expressing yourself, because there's no crosstalk, it's just about bearing witness to someone else's work. I actually do a lot of that in my yoga of writing retreats that we have here in Sedona, Portland, Maine, and Austin, Texas. We do a lot of that bearing witness to another person's truth. And it just develops a sense of safety that, people who grew up in sort of dysfunctional families don't necessarily have, I being one of them.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's very powerful, Sarah. I know that a lot of times people will say to me, you're awfully quiet. Well, I don't have anything to say that I feel I need to say, so why should I just do idle chit-chat? Idle chit-chat just drives me crazy.
I'd
rather,
But here we are talking on the radio in front of, hundreds or thousands of people. Why
exactly.
is that?
But
because
this is something that I'm compelled to say, and you're compelled to say, and I think that I feel like the world needs to hear. But nobody needs to hear about the weather. Nobody needs to hear about my shoes. You know what I mean?
I think you might be right about the shoes, but the weather, I used to think it was mundane, but when I realize it's not, because it is the way, unfortunately, but is one of the only ways that some people connect to nature, Mother Nature, is by talking about the weather, even if they're just experiencing it from inside their office or inside their car. So I used to think it was mundane, but now I realize that I'm actually glad they're actually even connecting with the world outside of the room they're in.
Well, I did tweet this week that I've decided that the weather, for some people, is just not filler. Really enjoy talking about the weather. They really like it.
Yeah, my husband, for one.
I'm not one who enjoys it.
No, but I do know what you mean. I'm an introvert naturally, and that may not seem possible because I'm recording CDs, I'm writing a book, I'm always leading retreats and leading group meditations and speaking all over the world. But the truth is, I dropped out of high school and then subsequently went to college, but then dropped out of my master's program because every time they said you're going to have to present in front of people, I couldn't breathe. So I would drop out of school.
Wow.
And so that, I think, surgery sometimes is one of the ways that we open our chakras, whether we like it or not. And sometimes it requires that cutting, and in my case it does. In my case it does. I could go through every single chakra and tell you about my surgeries, but I don't think we have enough time.
Well, we don't, because you have so much in your bio that I just want to attack and talk about that I literally had to narrow it down. And I have to get this in because I'm a therapist and I work with people with addiction issues. And one of the therapists at the center where I work, she loves Byron Katie.
Yes.
She uses that book with her clients, and so I must ask you about Byron Katie because I'm going to have to tell her to listen to this.
Okay.
How did you get involved with Byron Katie?
Well, okay, I don't know how much time we have, but let me tell you, I was sitting in a monastery. I actually was working for Gary Zukav, and I would take my vacations and go down and sit in the monastery for a retreat, what they call a sesshin. And at the time, I had a boyfriend, and in Zen, they have you gaze with your eyes somewhat open. My boyfriend at the time was sitting across from me, so I'd look at him occasionally, and I noticed that he was staring at another woman in the meditation. So I said to myself, you know what? I am not going to sit here for the weekend and do this. I'm going somewhere else. I called my girlfriend, and she said, shall we go to a juice fast? And I said, sure. And so I ended up at this juice fast, and it turned out I was going for the fast, but it turned out it was Byron Katie, and I was so amazed. The minute I walked in the door, I saw her, and I said, here I am in a Buddhist monastery, less than a few hours earlier, And now I'm sitting in front of someone who really knows what true nature is and can work with me sort of in a koan sense, in that self-inquiry sense that koan practices, and get to what's really going on beyond the story. We're all walking through life, many of us accumulating stress for various reasons, which we've talked about, in terms of not digesting our experiences, living in polluted environments, etc. But we move subtly as a kid from a world of beauty and possibility to a world of, as the stress collects in our nervous system, into a world of sort of danger. What's going to happen to me? The world is happening to me, and it's a subtle shift from having the world as your oyster to being the victim of circumstance. And so what Katie does is she helps people to identify their story and asks them, very simple questions. If you think about 9/11 and people flying buildings into planes, the story we hear is that people flew a building into a plane because of their belief system. Belief systems can make us kill people, can make us kill ourselves, can hurt other people, can make us crazy, can distance. It sometimes creates separation. The stressful stories we have. So Katie would say, ask yourself a question. Now everybody can think of a story. My in that case, my boyfriend was cheating on me, right? So I'd say, my boyfriend shouldn't cheat on me. And then she would ask the question, is it true? What's the reality of it? And I'd say, well, he is cheating on me. So she goes, well, how do you know he shouldn't be then? So I'm like, okay. So then she'd say, well, how do you feel when you believe the thought he shouldn't be doing it and he is? And then, everybody's had this experience being betrayed. And so how do you feel? I feel sick to my stomach. I feel like I want to kill him. I want to kill her. I want to, scream at him. I never want to talk to him again. I want to make him see that he's doing the wrong thing, whatever. How does that feel inside your body? And everybody would start to become more, because when someone's up in the front of the stage doing the work, everybody does it. So, how does it feel when you're feeling betrayed? It feels very, it's extremely sad. And that's really the case. And it's very, very, a lot of grief around it. And then you're feeling you're not good enough and all that. So there's a process of feeling that in wherever you feel it in your body and feeling the emotion. And then
how would Katie resolve that for you?
Oh, see, she doesn't. Let me tell you what happens, and it'll probably answer your question. The next she resolves it by being that bearing witness. The next question would be, who would you be if you could not think the thought your boyfriend shouldn't be cheating on you? Who would you be? And there he is doing whatever he's doing out in the world, and you cannot even possibly think the thought that he shouldn't be doing it. And there's this sense of freedom, almost a sense of witnessing.
I was just thinking a relief.
A relief. Peace, right? Peace,
Yeah.
And then the next question is to turn the question around. My boyfriend shouldn't be cheating on me. And then you would turn it around to, I shouldn't be cheating on me when, and then you'd have to figure out where you do that. But the point of the work isn't that Katie's a guru. She discovered this work by having a lot of pain in her life, and she noticed one day she woke up and she was fine, and then she had a thought. And the thought was so disturbing to her, and fortunately, that same thought was met with these questions, this self-inquiry process. It's actually a path of yoga, this inquiry, or yana yoga. But anyway, the work works if you literally are willing to sit down, write down the story. You can go to thework.com, THEWORK.com, and check out her site. And she's got all this free stuff, which is great. But literally, writing the story down is vital because the mind is so fast. We have 60,000 thoughts a day. That's one thought every 2 seconds. So you have to literally write the stressful story down and then have somebody, and it doesn't even matter who, ask you the questions. Now, your job is to write them down and answer the questions honestly. Nobody's job is to fix you. And in fact, the work doesn't say, okay, now that we've done this work, you need to change the way you behave. In fact, that doesn't work that way. The fact that you do the inquiry process in and of itself begins to unravel our attachment to our story. I might have the same, next time I'm walking in that room, I might have the thought, my boyfriend shouldn't cheat on me. I sit down and do it again. I sit down and do it again. I want to get to what's real. And it's not so you suddenly pretend, oh, yes, he should be cheating on me. No. That's the one big trap in the self-realization process, is to pretend that we're more evolved than we are. I still swear at people who cut me off in traffic, albeit less than I used to. I still get caught up in stories, but now I have the tools to inquire and at least see my part in it. I know how to reduce stress so I can walk through the world in a way that feels much more peaceful and much more friendly. And so, there are these tools, but just because we suddenly begin to meditate or do the work or whatever we do doesn't suddenly mean we need to pretend that we're more spiritual than we actually are, because that causes much more stress, which is what we're trying to get rid of.
Yes, indeed. I want to remind everyone we are speaking to Sarah McLean. She's the founder of the Sedona Meditation Institute. We're talking about meditation. We're coming up towards the end of our time together, Sarah. And although I did upload another meditation that I do want to sneak in, it's a very quick meditation, but it was a meditation that I felt was very important because it tackled the idea of gratitude. And so what does gratitude mean to you?
To me, well, it's like I said, if we are stress-free, which some of us are not, which is fine, we would walk through the world basically saying thank you. It's just our natural state. Thank you. But, gratitude can be a practice, because they find, and there's this book actually called Thanks, that has been a subject of, or it's a report of this research, where if we pretend or even attempt to become grateful for just one or two things a day or a night before we go to bed, we literally can change our behavior. We can change the way we feel. So we don't even have to be grateful. This is one place you can pretend. You don't have to actually be 100% grateful. You just have to think about, you know what, I'm happy to be sitting here in my house, or I'm happy my dog is sitting by my feet, or I'm happy American Idol's on, or whatever the story is. Just to come up with 5 or 3 things to be happy for, it actually can change our outlook. Again, it's a brain training.
It truly can change your outlook. I know that when I'm feeling my worst, that's when I do Abraham Hicks, I'm sure you've heard of them, their rampages of appreciation, where I just throw out everything that I'm grateful for. And like you said, it could be just that, I have a house, I have a car, I have a warm bed, my fur-faced family, my husband, whatever it is that just comes to my mind, I just throw it out there. And it's hard to be angry or upset or feel sorry for yourself when you have all these things to be grateful for.
Right, but it just has to be a reminder to do it. I have a whole article on my website, sedonameditation.com. If you go to the resources section, there's a gratitude meditation that's like 20 minutes, and there's an article on the attitude of gratitude and the different findings on this research and other ways to become grateful. But sometimes when I'm in bed at night and I'm having a rough night, like, not rough, but sometimes I can't sleep when it's a full moon. And so I will just do the gratitude list, and I'll start with the letter A and just name like 4 things, avocados, apples, whatever it is that I happen to come to me, and I'll go right through the letter Z. And it's a wonderful experience. So,
it's much more productive than counting sheep, I must say.
Yeah, well, it's actually changing the brain, so it's fun.
Okay, let's go into this quick sample meditation. This is Sarah McLean and her gratitude sample. It is about 1 minute and 40 seconds, and then we'll come back and we'll wrap up the interview. Here's Sarah McLean and her gratitude.
Imagine a ray of light beaming and filling the entire heart area with golden warmth. As you breathe in and out, feel this warmth deeply inside your chest. This area of your heart, the heart center, is responsible for feelings of love, compassion, empathy, forgiveness, and self-sacrifice. Focus on this golden warmth and focus on the feelings of love, compassion, empathy, sense of forgiveness, with your attention on your heart center, sense the interconnectedness of all things, all beings, nature, the elements, everyone and everything. Now bring your attention to what you feel grateful for in your life. Perhaps you feel gratitude for being alive, or healthy, or for the organs of your body which sustain you, or for your breath, or for your heart beating without you having to think about it.
Okay, that was Sarah McLean, a sample of her gratitude meditation on Parawoman Radio, featuring all women that are doing extraordinary things. Awesome. Well, Sarah, I hope you'll join us again sometime, maybe when your book comes out.
That sounds great.
Share it with us. And thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you joined us tonight, and it's been delightful.
Well, thank you for doing all you do. I appreciate it.
Bye, Sarah.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay, that was the wonderful and amazing Sarah McLean. If you want to find her on the World Wide Web, you can go to www.sedonameditation.com. Her website is amazing. I must warn you that you will go there and spend a little bit of time, so make sure you have some time on your hands. We are coming up to the Para World News. Hello, Shannon. How are you?
I am doing fabulous, Amy. How are you?
I'm fabulous as well. I'm glad you're doing well.
Good. Thank you. Man, that was such a wonderful guest. I am so blessed that you had her on.
I know. I am so happy that she agreed, and her voice was so soothing, and boy, she's just been through quite a bit in her life, and it's amazing, and enjoyable that she is bringing it to the world. I'm grateful.
Well, I am too. I'm just thrilled that you had her tonight.
Mm-hmm. So, do you have some great news?
I have some wonderful news tonight. Let's see. Let's start off. This one's a little sad, but Sunday night, Julie Knight was at her home in Somerset in Great Britain when she was shocked by a grisly sight. A flock of starlings numbering over 100 simply fell out of the sky, dead or dying. Julie said it was like a scene out of a horror movie. In the end, only 6 survived, but the rest suffered from broken bones and beaks. An expert from the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds said that this is one of the oddest things that he had ever heard about, that they'd certainly never come across anything similar. Their death is a mystery because no disease or pesticides had been found in their systems, and there is nothing in the area that they would have flown into by accident. And they said even a predator chasing them would not have caused that kind of damage.
Wow. How many did you say? How many?
Over 100.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
that's interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty sad. But
you hear about the dolphins and the whales that beach themselves, and do we know why they do that? I mean, we try to save them and send them back, but I don't know. Maybe it's an earth tide or just something happened universally that we're not aware of yet.
Yeah, it's possible. On a lighter note, Jacek Sliminski was digging up drains under his home in Bialystok, Austria, when he discovered an enormous stone. But this wasn't any normal enormous stone. This one had a huge Z carved into it, and as soon as he touched it, any pain that he had been experiencing from a bad back that he's had for years simply disappeared, never to return. Now, formerly a plumber, he now devotes his time to the hundreds of ill people who have been coming to his home just to touch the stone. He says, I don't understand it, but it works, and it's better than fixing broken toilets.
I had a string of amethyst beads once that when I would place it on my head, it would help with my headaches. And in college, there was one of the guys that I knew, he had a headache. And so I said, just put it on your head, and I promise you it'll help. And so he did, and it started going away, and it scared him. He's like, take it off, take it off. He was scared by it.
Really?
Yeah.
I can imagine if you hadn't experienced any of that it might be a freaky experience.
It would be. I don't make fun of him about it or anything like that, but I can totally relate how, when you're in a certain belief system, if, something outside of that pattern works, then it kind of shakes your world a little bit.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. All right, my final story for the night. Just in time for St. Patrick's Day, folks in Tipperary, Ireland, have installed a leprechaun watch webcam in a remote field. They say it's in a very mystical area, and it's located near a fairy ring. And they hope that they can catch not only leprechauns, but other Irish fairies such as pukas, banshees, and marrows. So if you are interested, just remember that it is located in a natural area, so nothing can be seen during the night. But they want you to go and look at it and report and see if you see anything of interest. So the link to that is www.irelandseye.com/leprechaun/webcam.htm.
Why don't you go ahead and say that again? That's a long one.
Yeah, that was. www.irelandseye.com/leprechaun/webcam.htm. And I can post it in the chat room as well.
Okay.
But
that's great. Shannon, that is near and dear to my heart because I have a kinship to the Fae. And I have seen webcams like that. I don't know if it's that webcam, but I have seen a webcam posted on the internet that was posted supposedly in a fairy ring by an oak tree, and it might have been in Ireland even. And I have visited it, and but I did it at night. Nothing was to be seen.
Right.
Have you visited it?
I was there this evening, but it was already dark there. Just checking out the article on it, and so I don't know. I haven't looked at it during the day, and I work all day long. So by the time I get home, it's 4:30, which is I'm thinking 9:30 their time.
Yeah, they're ahead of us, aren't they? Or
yeah, so I'd have to check it out over the weekend or something.
That's exciting. I love that. I love that they're doing that.
And I knew you would. When I saw it, I was so excited. I was like, oh, Amy's going to love this.
Yes, because I do love St. Patrick's Day because, the leprechaun and the whole relation to the Fae and the spring. And I'm really, I find that I'm embracing certain holidays, like certain times of the year, like not so much with the Christmas this year. This year, I'm feeling the spring and the St. Patrick's Day and the Easter and the eggs and all that business. And it seems like it fluctuates from year to year for me. I'm always into Halloween, but the other holidays I kind of fluctuate, and that's exciting. A fairy camera.
Yep, leprechaun cam.
Leprechauns are fairies.
Okay.
In my book. I even have a little leprechaun on my porch standing by a little round door that I put on my porch and to invite and I have gnomes all over the place and other fairies. So, wow, great news, Shannon.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was excited this week. Very nice
And
stuff.
really quickly, I want to congratulate you because I hear you won a karaoke contest, and you will be able to float on a parade float and sing, and you have a beautiful voice, and so it doesn't surprise me that you won. And so I want to congratulate you.
It surprised me because I've been sick for like a month, and I just signed on because I was there. I didn't even know there was a contest, and I was like, well, I'll just sing something low and easy, and it apparently blew away the audience and the judges, and I was surprised. I was absolutely floored. It was an incredible experience for me.
Well, congratulations, and thanks for coming and bringing the Paraworld news. We're running low on time.
Okay.
Excellent as always. I want to remind the audience that we air every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 4:30 p.m. Pacific Time. Next week, we're going to have psychic Annette Martin joining us. Thank you so much for tuning in. We love and appreciate everyone who visits and listens to us daily. Or I should say weekly, and tunes into our archives. And we invite you to do so each and every week. Bye, everyone.
You've been listening to Para Women Radio. So for Amy Williamson, Shannon Overland, and Beverly Van Pelt, join us next week as we talk to more extraordinary women in the paranormal.
Be sure to give this live a thumbs up. Helps us go out into the algorithm. If you like my content, consider subscribing. Those are just free ways to help me out. And if you really like my content, please be sure to share. I did see a few people shared my content this week, and it's really, really appreciated when you do that.
Down to a tiny house on the edge of hell. Ain't no garage or a swimming pool, just a sad old friend who thinks he's cool. Angel knocks twice. She says, let me